Welcome to the third episode of our AGON series, everyone. This series, we sat down with the director of projects at Evil Hat Productions, Sean Nittner, to cover AGON. In today's episode, we get to begin discussing the process. As for the announcements after the show, it's only me today, since Amelia is enjoying Disney with her family currently. So, join me after the show for my thoughts on this discussion, our normal show closer stuff, and a quick announcement about the new For the Queen edition that was just released recently. With all of that out of the way, enjoy the show, everyone.
Welcome back to our discussion episode. Last time we finished our session 0 for AGON. This episode, we are going to be discussing the character creation process. We're excited to welcome back Sean Nittner, who just gave me a thumbs up because I pronounced the game correctly on the first try this time. Yeah.
Nice job. I mean, again, I'm not picky about it, but it does make me feel nice.
You know what? The thumbs up felt good. I appreciate it. Do you want to reintroduce yourself for everyone? And then please tell us about the character you made.
Sure. I'm Sean Nittner. I use he, him pronouns. I'm most known for being the director of Projects Evil Hat, where I project manage and recruit new projects that we work on, like Thirsty Sword Lesbians and Apocalypse Keys and Girl by Moonlight, and this game as well, AGON. I'm also the steward of Big Bad Con, a Bay Area gaming convention that happens in October. We celebrate marginalized creators running their games and connecting with other people. And it's a lovely place to play a bunch of indie games, attend some really wonderful panels, and just get to connect with other people in the game and spaces. And if you want to reach me, you can find me. You can email me, SeanNittner@gmail. A little about my character. Lion-hearted Kythia, the daughter of Poseidon. She is strong in the ways of craft and reason as she knows her way about the ship like she was born on it. She might have been. She has piercing blue eyes that darken as her mood does. And she carries a seaweed net made by nymphs of the ocean and her father's trident, which she stole from him. She has salt-encrusted hair and is ready for adventure.
And how's that relationship with Dad going?
Oh, it's very poor. I think I'm not sure what really tripped it off, whether it was stealing his trident or whether it was pledging myself to Hades in an attempt to reclaim the shade of my brother. But right now, Poseidon is big mad at all of us because I don't revere him. I have no divine favor with Poseidon. And we're at sea. So good choice, solid choices Kythia's making to rebuke the god of the waters, of the oceans, of the depths.
I'm sure nothing bad will come of it.
To.
I think this is going to go fine, honestly.
Of course. It'll be great.
It's fine.
Yeah,
Absolutely. we got the try.
100. You want to tell me about your character?
Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, I've got graceful-hearted Isadora, daughter of Aphrodite, honored by Athena, and she is the calm, calculating type. She's got calm, calculating eyes, a graceful form with dark teal dyed and flowing hair. Wears minimal armor so she can accent her beautiful dress, and uses an ornate, weaponized hand mirror however she chooses in combat. Yeah. I mean, she's doing fine. She's living her good life. I mean, she's on good terms with her mom, Aphrodite.
Yeah.
They get to hang out and chill on Wednesdays and enjoy each other's company. But like, it's just a normal, like, no real big favors going either way, but like not a bad relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad. It's good for
She's doing her own thing though.
mothers and daughters to be able to give each other space to grow and still reconnect.
Yeah, it's like it's the call once a week sort of relationship with her mom.
Yeah.
Not the I'll see you every day and we'll hang out for brunch every day.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sort of relationship.
Yeah. Healthy boundaries.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
It's important.
And,
It's important.
And since we have these lovely sweet characters, these little cupcakes, how about your character, Amelia?
Yeah. I also made a sweet little cupcake named Fredigand, Iron-Minded Fredigand. Who, if anybody ever wants to know more, there's a great book called The Dark Queens, which is partially about Fredigand. But she is a scion of war-torn lands. Why are they war-torn? It might be her fault. You know.
Who's to say?
Her honored goddess Ares, so I mean, I'm sure it's fine. Yeah, she's got some divine favor with Ares and also with Hera. So she's a kind of a cunning person, managed to sort of keep her power despite having a lineage of being a peasant.
It's notoriously chill gods.
Yeah, right.
Hera and Ares, you picked the most even-tempered of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Fredigand is super chill too, so no big deal.
Yeah. And what's her chosen domain? What's her
Blood and
best
Valor.
domain? Oh yeah. Go figure.
Go
figure.
Yeah, craft and reason. No. Yes. So Fredigand is sort of like powerful, not regal looking, but still kind of has a lot of power when you look at her. She has dark, hard eyes, braided hair, and she does carry a sword. It might be covered in blood of her enemies. It might not be. I don't know.
Maybe that's just the coloration of the metal.
Yeah,
maybe it just looks dark when you draw it.
Yeah, nobody's really run tests on it to be sure. It's probably nothing.
Lighting in these shows is always so dark anyway, you can never be 100%
yeah.
sure what it is.
Salt water does a lot of weird things
It's
to
crazy,
metal, you know.
It's a patina.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what it is.
Right. Yeah. I was just cooking dinner and cutting up some fish and stuff, so it's probably fine.
So I think we're going to do something that maybe you don't always do on the show, but I'm not sure if this is normal, but we're going to see a challenge, a leadership challenge. Is that right? Are we going to jump into that?
Yeah.
Great.
Normally we do what we call our fanfic segment, which is where we talk about what we think would happen if we ever actually did play this game, which obviously we never do. We don't play the games we talk about. It's just not how it works here. But I would really like to make this leadership role, which is sort of the first thing that we do to kind of establish who's kind of running that first scene, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get in the discussion, let's do that.
I think I'm going to wear a couple hats here. I'm going to play both the Strife player, position the contest, and then I'm going to switch hats and play hero player so I can join you in it, so we can all do this together. So as a Strife player, it's my job to set the scene, open it up. I'm going to pick an island out of the book. There's 12 of them in there, and I will introduce you to it. But before you get to the island, we're going to have Lost at Sea, a moment of peril where a leader needs to stand out. There'll be a contest, something regarding the something that the heroes need to address, and and then whoever is the best in that contest will be the leader of the new island. So that's where we're going to start. So imagine, if you will, a strange and ethereal fog that blots out the stars. It makes it hard to tell night from day. The gods themselves seem to be hidden from you as you are lost on our ship, the Crestfallen. Perhaps named with too much hubris. The sailors on the ship are all hardened veterans and warriors. They've come with you through the war. They will pledge themselves to you. But clearly, as days and nights have passed in this strange fog with no sign of returning home, their morale has faded, and they now look to you pleadingly. Off in the distance, you see a speck, something that could be an island, something that could be hope. Maybe it's home. And just as the sailors are about to are looking like their hopes are about to be risen, those same hopes are dashed as a powerful wave smashes against the bow of the crestfallen, sending it astray. The rigging all goes wild. The winds whip up, and out of nowhere, it's as though an angry god, perhaps Poseidon, has demonstrating his wrath, and a sudden storm breaks out. The sailors who were run to their stations, but already one of them as the boom swings across, one of them is knocked into the oceans, and the water is roiling below, and suddenly the god's anger is made manifest. And so you heroes are plighted to save your ship before you've even arrived at the first island. Right. I am going to give you a challenge. I'll roll as a strife player. I'll make a roll, and then I'll ask each of the heroes who will stand up to this challenge. So the first thing I say is, what is the challenge of? This is a challenge of resolve and spirit, because you're directly facing the wrath of the gods themselves. Mm-hmm. This is, can you rally the troops? This is, can you hold your own endurance? Can you weather out this storm? So if you decide to elect, you'll be rolling your resolve and spirit, and you can, by drawing from your reserves, your pathos, bring in other domains. So, for instance, Fredegan could find a way, if she wanted, to bring in blood and valor. I'm sure there's a way in this challenge. So I'm going to roll. Now, normally on an island, I'd be rolling my pool of dice. I'd take the highest one and I'd add it to the strife level. Now, because we never want a leadership role to be failed per se, the goal is not to see like who. This goal is not for us to be perished before we even get to the first challenge.
That's boring.
Yes, that wouldn't really serve us well. And because it's really about who is the best among us. While we're at sea, there is no strife. There is no strife level. The strife happens when we get to the island. So normally I take my highest die and I add it to the strife level. Right now the strife level is 0. So the highest I'm going to roll can't be that high. But I'm going to roll some d6s. Aha! I got a 5. So my highest roll is a 5, so that's our target. Should be easy to hit, but the best of us, whoever rolls the highest, will get 5 glory because they've done it, but they will also become the leader on the island as we arrive. Amazing. And that's very important. They make lots of important decisions when it comes down to it. So who among you heroes will stand up against the wrath of the gods and try to right the ship and save your sailors from this unnatural storm?
Yeah, I mean, feels like all of us.
I mean,
I would hope.
But
I would hope all of us are like, let's not die here.
Let's not die here. But there's a ritual that we'll go through. I'll start the ritual because it's a little weird for me to both GM and play. But I'll start the ritual, and as I say each part of my name. I'm going to pick up the respective die. So I say, I, lion-hearted, and I pick up my lion-hearted D6. Kythia, and I pick up my name die D6. Scion of Poseidon, and I'm going to pick up the domain die for this, which is a D6 because I have a D6 in Resolve and Spirit. I will face this challenge, and I'm also right now just going to flag to all of you. I'm marking a pathos on my character sheet to bring in another domain, and because sailing is all about craft and reason, I'm thinking I'm going to be jumping on the rigging, etc. And so I'm also, just so you all see, even though this is a challenge of Resolve and Spirit, and I brought in my Resolve and Spirit D6, I'm also bringing in my Craft and Reason D6, and I'll justify that later on when we get into narration. But my Craft and Reason D8. I apologize, because Craft and Reason is my strong suit. So now I'm sitting here with 3 D6, 1 from name, 1 from epithet, 1 from Resolve and Spirit, and 1 D8, and I'm just going to hold this poll until we all are ready. So who else will name their name and their epithet and their the lineage to join this battle?
All right. So, Iron-minded, Fredegan. So that should be 2 D6, right?
Yep,
for each
there
of
you
those. Go. Iron-minded, Fredegan. And then I take a D6 for Resolve and Spirit. Right? Because that's what I have.
You still name your lineage. Where are you the scion of?
Oh, yes. The scion of war-torn lands.
Nice. Awesome.
And then I feel like I would also like to use blood and valor here because I feel like valor's all about heroics.
Yep.
That's great. So I'm going to
So
throw
you
that
can
one in
bring
there.
your blood valor, which is a D8. Yeah.
And then what else?
And so you can stop right there.
Okay.
You can just be like, cool, I'm doing that. You're not going to roll it. You're just going to hold on to it. If you wanted, I didn't do this, but if you wanted, if you're like, no, I want more, you could tick off one of your divine favor boxes. Yeah, you could have one of the gods directly intervene, and you could grab a D4 for that. And the D4 is distinct because all the other dice, you're going to take the highest two and add them together. The D4 is going to go on top of that. So if you decide to spend divine favor, you're kind of in a different class, right? You're potentially rolling high. You have a potential higher max than someone who's not spending divine favor. So you would announce that now. You would say, gaining the boon from Ares or something like that, and you grab a D4.
Yeah, I mean,
if you wanted to do that,
I would like the divine favor of Hera. I feel like we need some cunning to get ourselves out of this situation. So
cool.
That's so good.
I am going to go
so
ahead
on your
and
sheet, you'd
mark
have marked one pathos. You'd have marked one pathos to bring in your blood and valor, and you'd also have marked off one of your dashes of cunning that you had from Hera. So you're spending a few of your resources, but that's okay. You want to get leadership, and you'll hold all those dice, and then we'll turn to Ryan. Ryan, we look to you.
I, graceful-hearted Isadora, scion of Aphrodite, using my resolve in spirit,
yes,
call upon the wisdom of Athena in this situation to spend a pathos to bring in that D4.
Nice.
The
pathos is to bring in pathos is just bring an additional domain. So, for instance, if you want to bring in your arts narration domain, you bring in that D8.
I'm 100% going to bring that in as well.
And then if you wanted to bring also the divine favor of Athena, you'd scratch off one of your divine favor marks and add in the D4 for that.
Perfect. So I am going to scratch off that mark, and I'm going to spend a pathos to bring in my arts and oration to lead the way with my words.
Nice. So now what we've all done is we've all committed to describing our character and their bold action, to to describing how we're using another domain. We know this is a fight against the gods, but in the case of Fredegonde, we're going to figure out how this is bloody and valorous. In the case of Isadora, we're going to find out how your beauty and art narration factor into this. In the case of me, I'm going to figure out how my craft and reason figures into it. And you two, I'm not spending divine favor, but you two are also going to, in your narration, describe how the gods directly intervene on your behalf. So we've got our dice pools. We roll them all, and then we take our highest roll. Oh my goodness, I am not going to be highest. I'm not going to be best.
I probably not either. Do we take the highest one or highest two?
You take the highest two, separate out your D4s. They're separate. Your D4. So besides your D4, you take your two highest two, and then you add your D4 result to that.
Amazing.
All right. So it looks like Fredegonde is sitting on a 9 plus whatever is on the D4,
12.
which I can't read it.
Yeah, so I got 12.
You're sitting at 12.
Wow. You crushed it.
Yeah.
I got a 4 on one of my D6s, a 3 on my D8, and a 2 on my D4.
All right.
So a total of 9, I believe.
Nice. We, audience, I promise we did not script this, but we could not have done this better. I rolled abysmally. I rolled 1s and 2s on all my dice.
Oh, no.
So I have a total of 4. So beyond all expectation, I have somehow suffered. Normally, the heroes almost all prevail in this, but somehow I have suffered. So I am going to, my character, I will describe failing in their attempt, for whatever reason, and I can describe it however I'd like. And then Ryan, you will next describe your character succeeding, doing the thing, rallying the people, righting the ship, etc., but not completely, right? You're going to leave room for the finale, and then finally Amelia will bring it home as how Fredegonde, has how Iron Mind Fredegonde saves us all, gets us to the island, and becomes our leader for this island. So I'll start with the narration.
Yes.
As I roll the lowest, and sometimes not in the leadership role at the beginning, but sometimes there are various harms. Like I could suffer more pathos from this. In this case, I don't prevail. So also mechanically, like note-taking wise, I'm going to get 1 glory because I succeeded at it. Isadora, you're going to get half the challenge rounded up, so you're going to get 3 glory, and Fred again will get the full roll of 5 glory. And you can mark that now on your character sheet. You can do it before or after, but it's important, remember. All right, lion-hearted Kythia grabs hold of the rigging, wraps it around her arm and shoulder, and holds on and holds on to right the sail, and she calls out to her. She calls out to all of these sailors, to arms, grab hold of the sheets, grab hold of the tiller. And she knows perfectly how to sail a ship, and she uses her expert knowledge of the craft that she feels like she was born on to try and right it. And by all accounts, she should have succeeded, except for the vengeful wrath of Poseidon smites her. The skies part for a moment, and borrowing from his brother, calling upon a favor of his brother, a lightning bolt comes crashing out of the sky, snaps our mast in twain, and the sails are laid asunder. The sailors are all looking to lion-hearted Kythia as she knows that her own hubris and her own arrogance has brought this horrible demise upon them. Things look terrible. Everyone looks lost, and they blame her for it. And she, holding onto the rigging, it's suddenly gone slack in her arms as the tension's fallen away because the sails have collapsed. And she looks at that rigging like every fiber of who she is has been questioned in this moment, and she is suffering in this example. Yes. Brian, please now tell me, even with our mast snapped by the angry gods, Ryan, tell me how Isadora is going to prevail.
Graceful-hearted Isadora steps forward, almost untouched by the wind, her hair flowing as naturally as it does in a gentle breeze. And she sees the mast snap in two, and she calls upon the wisdom of Athena. What do we do? How can we get out of this? And we see a divine light, like a gentle hand upon her shoulder, as her eyes see things in a different light. She sees the connections of what we can use with our best resources, where we can place people, and she begins directing people. She begins directing those and keeps them calm and says, if you go over here, you take this, you do this, you get this rigging over here, you move over here, you keep these people safe, and we'll get out of this. She keeps people calm with her oration skills, and she walks through gracefully, slowly, and with intent to get to each area that she needs to help calm and control.
Nice. And this would be enough, but it is not. How does iron-minded Fredigan bring us, finish the deal and bring us to safety?
So Fredigan is this sort of like resolved figure, kind of standing like a little bit up. I don't know if she's like standing on like some kind of crate or something, but it's like everybody else is sort of like milling about, and she's like, I'm just going to be a little bit taller than that. And so she sort of shouts to everybody, and like Isadora has calmed everybody down and everything, and Fredigan is like about to get everyone riled up again, and basically say, like, if you do not do what you need to do, everyone will die. Some of you are probably going to die either way, but we need to get this done. And she calls upon this cunning of Hera to basically look at the situation and sort of say, like, it's very, very dangerous, but if we maneuver this particular way, we can kind of turn against the tide, and it should land us like near where we need to be. If we kind of change directions, like, yes, some people are probably going to fall off the boat and die. And
nice.
So
that's a risk I'm willing to take.
I mean, and it is for her. It's like, we're going to save the most people possible. Either we can all drown or only some people can drown. And so it's this very like cold-hearted, strong-willed kind of thing, that she just gets up and is like, this is what we're doing.
Yes.
It's like Lord Farquaad from Shrek.
this. I don't know if our ships have a forecast or one of the raised or the quarter deck, but yes. I know there are raised decks on ships, so I can see you calling down.
Yeah,
and wonderful. So it is
so good.
Is through your iron-minded perseverance and dedication that everyone sort of snaps to. They break out the oars. They repair the sails as best they can, so they're not pulling us off course. Several people are like just holding them down with straining all their might, but you lead us to the Isle of Cryos, where you see a great tower in the distance, a ship that has sailed away, sort of propelled by the power of the storm. Maybe it wasn't the anger of the gods, because this ship, it seems like it has a storm that's propelling it forward. The same storm that affected us is being used by it. And people on the beach all wailing at the ship because something horrible has happened, but then looking up to the skies and seeing these harpies that are flying down to torment them. And that's how we would begin arrival at the Isle of Cryos. There's already in turmoil. Things are the people are in danger. This pirate ship, Thesakira's pirate ship, has stolen something from the island. The temple is now in ruins. There's a mystery at foot, and we would take our characters right into that moment. But we would know that because of her iron-minded dedication, because she led us here, that Fredigan is our leader for this island, and so you'd be calling the shots.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's how leadership role works. Yeah.
I feel like this worked out perfectly, because I really wanted to be the leader. I feel like Fredigan is a natural leader, and I love that Kithia's relationship with Poseidon went bad?
I know.
Can you believe
I was
it?
like, I rolled 3d6 and a d8, and I rolled nothing but 1s and 2s, and I was like, well,
this could not have been better story-wise.
Yeah, perfect, because I'd love to have us demonstrate each kind of outcome. Yes. So great. Mm-hmm. But 2, I made a choice. I was withholding my
call on
favor.
Your divine favor.
You only have 5, and it doesn't replenish until the end of the island. So but
that's plenty.
But leadership is important too. So
I know that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's so good.
So good.
So good.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Well, let's jump off of that and dive right into a segment that we are calling D20 for your thoughts.
Sure.
D20 for your thoughts?
The only die we don't use.
Right.
But I'm well versed.
It's almost a pun if you squint hard enough.
No, I feel it. I hear it. I love it.
Yep.
So in this segment, we talk to our guests about their thoughts on character creation in this game, in other systems, about gaming in general, about the whole process and everything. But first, the most cliche question that you've been asked probably at every RPG podcast you've ever been on. How did you get into games?
For those who have heard me on other interviews, this story is not going to be a shock, but I was 12. I was in the Mendocino Middle School library. I was walking around looking at nerdy books, and I heard some guys at a table, and they were talking at funny noises and talking about using strange names that I didn't recognize. And I said, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And they said, "We're playing Dungeons and Dragons." And they said, "We're playing D&D." And I said, "Cool, can I play?" And they're like, they kind of sized me up. And they're like, "Sure, you're a gnome in a sack." And I was like, I know what none of those things mean, so great.
You're like, I'm 12 and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So I sat there as this gnome in a sack. I couldn't do anything. I was trapped in the sack. But I did overhear a conversation that no one knew about because I was because my big ears, my keen hearing, and because they forgot that there was someone in the sack, and so I overheard a conversation, and I was able to warn the players about an ambush that was going to happen. I did sort of just remember, I have a little dagger, and so I was able to cut my way out of the sack and tell them, hey, I just overheard you're about to be, these guys are bandits. They're gonna attack, and I never looked back since then. I started as an gnome in a sack, and I've been playing now for 36 years. It was just fell instantly in love, and have been playing ever since. So
that's such a good story.
Clayton Weber, my very first GM.
Like nowhere to go but up from gnome in a sack.
Yeah, right.
Like it's so good.
You can't really. Yeah, I had zero agency. I sat there for most of the first session, being like, "Can I do anything? No, you're in a sack." Oh, okay. But I also took it in. Like I heard what they were all doing, and I was figuring out like what these weird dice were, and I really had no idea. Like it was like walking into a movie you've not seen any trailers for, and you've never seen anything like it before. I just completely blew me away, and so I was instantly in love.
That's so
absolutely cool. In your opinion, Sean, what makes for a great character creation system?
Oh boy, that's I think there's conflicting goals in a character creation system, because at once I like a character creation system that's fast, like AGON, gets you into play, but also I like a character creation system that has enough world building and character connections that you have an immediate agenda, an immediate situation. I think we talked earlier about Apocalypse World as being, sort of a game changer. But specifically the HX system in Apocalypse World, like asking how the characters know each other and forming bonds around those things. I think that some of my best games have started where we had no idea what the story was going to be, and we made characters who clearly had something going on from the get-go, and we just rolled with that. We didn't, the GM didn't think of an adventure. The GM just played off of something they talked about. In Blades in the Dark, when I run it for friends, usually I just ask, like, who's your friends? Who's your rival? Who's the crew's contact? And which factions are you tight with? Which factions have you pissed off? And out of those things, I'll get a few seeds of things that I can go, oh, well, if you've really made the Dimmer sisters mad, but the Ink Rakes think you're great, like I bet one of them would tell you before some big like ghost possession thing was going to happen, and I don't need, and then like now you have a trajectory, and it's not built out of like what me, the GM, thought was a cool thing. It was based off of what you, the players, generated as fodder for the game, because I know that's what you care about. Like you pick these things, so you really want to do them. So for me, a great character creation system gives the GM a hook or multiple hooks to create adventures and situations and encounters that are deeply personal to players, and not like, cool, you just made this dragonborn paladin of Tyr. There's 3 rats in a cellar you have to take care of. And you're like, why? What?
Yeah,
how's that connected
why am I
to me?
here? Like, yes, paladin of whatever, catching rats now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love it. I love it when this character creation system brings the characters right to the point where they're ready for their first conflict, trial, challenge, and then the game picks up right there, and it's just like it's seamless. You go right from, what's your deal? Let's play it out. Let's see how it works.
Yeah. No, I know we've talked a lot about that in the past on the show, about like the importance of like the players being able to give those sort of like backstory clues to the GM to say like, hey, here's a thing, I would like it to come up again. I would like you to do something with this. Here you go. Like it's a gift to the GM.
Here's my gift to you.
Yeah. Like, you're like, hey, look at this drama I made for you.
Yep. In Fate, all of your characters have a trouble aspect. And that is like, what's going wrong in my life? And the trouble aspect is just begging the GM, like, please, you have 4 characters. They have 4 troubles. That's 4 kickers, bangs, prompts, whatever you want to call them. But that's 4 ways that you can start an adventure or add something to an adventure that, to make it more personal and to make them more invested. the deal with the devil that your character made is going to come due.
Mhm.
Why not? Right? Let's bring it to the game. It validates the player. They're like, oh, this thing I thought I brought into the world is real. Because you can say things, you can write stuff on your character sheet, but until it comes into play, it's kind of not real.
Right.
So it validates the player, like, yay, that's my thing. I care about it. And it gives the GM a way to create a challenge that they know the players have stake in. Because I'm just like, well, there's 3 rats in a cellar. You're like, I don't care. But if you're like, these 3 rats are desecrating the holy shrine of Tyr, the last of its kind, because of the rat infestation, the rat lord that has been destroying all these temples. You're like, this is the last temple of Tyr? Of course I have to go in and fend off these 3 CR1 half rats or whatever, whatever they are, right? Like,
or it turns out that rat was actually your childhood pet, and now it's here.
Yeah. Oh no! Save Joey the rat. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we like to talk about the character sheets, especially when we have game designers on, and and sometimes it's just like I wanted to put stuff on a sheet, but sometimes it is really intentional. And it sounds like from talking with you that like the character sheet layout for this game was very intentional. So I'm wondering if you can kind of talk about a little bit of that process. I know you said John did a lot of it, but like you mentioned making changes as you play tested and all. Like, I want to know what thoughts and ideas went into the way the sheet looks now.
Yeah. So I have to fanboy out a little bit at John. John did not do a little bit of it or most of it. John did all of it. He is the graphic designer. I mean, I remember one time when we were on this call and he had a screen share going on and he was in design creating the character sheet, working on the character sheet. And my knowledge of InDesign is like so minimal. Like I barely know my way around it. And he is just an absolute virtuoso. And there was one point where there was this part that I thought looked fine. He's like, I don't know that I like that. He just highlights this giant section of the character sheet and just deletes it. And
your heart is like, no.
My heart was in my throat. I was like, what did you do? That's so much work. You just deleted all this work. I would have always copied it, pasted it in some section off to the side, used bits of it, tweaked it around, never just hacked it out. He's like, no, just delete it. And then he, in front of my eyes, like a wizard crafting something, he just redoes it in a different way, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's way better. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. But like,
I'm gonna go pass out now.
Yeah, exactly. I was dying until he got to the point, and I was like, oh yeah, no, that's super smart. But to answer the question directly, yes, the character sheet is designed to be followed in 2 specific ways. One is as you're creating your character, you are filling it out straight down lists. So if we look at our character sheet, I started with my epithet, Lionhearted. I then wrote my name, Kythia, right? I just go right down as I'm saying it. Now, normally you might think, well, wouldn't you do name before epithet? But because the way we say it is not Kythia the Lionhearted, we say Lionhearted. I mean, you could, that's fine. It wouldn't break the game. But we say Lionhearted Kythia or graceful or iron-minded Fredigan, right? We that's the way we introduce our characters. So we build the character creation follows the process of the character sheet. And if you look, the character sheet is just straight down. As you're creating it, you're just filling it in. But when you're playing, you're also reading it straight down. So if I'm trying to figure out what I say, I can literally look down my sheet and say, Lionhearted Kythia, Scion of Poseidon, who honors Hades, bleh, right? Like it's just right there in front of me. And then right next to it are domains. And you can see there's a tiny little line between lineage and domain. And that's because your lineage is what sets your starting domain. So there's a little a little reminder there that it's your lineage that picks your domain. And then the similar fashion, if you look at pathos, agony, and fate, those are all in one line because that's how your character, as you suffer, as you progress, you just go straight down the line. So first is filling out pathos, and then you hit agony, and then you start marking fate as you go. And so that progression of suffering all goes down in that process. And then the glory, which we didn't touch on a ton about, but the glory is on the top because the glory is the ultimate determiner of of all the other things that happen. your glory is how long you'll be remembered. How long your character will be remembered, how people will speak of your hero. So we put that at the very top. We want that to be constantly on your minds. We want that visually to be a part of like all the other bits. Like if you forget to spend divine favor, if you forget to or pathos, it's fine. You can catch up later. But glory should be something you see all the time and you're constantly reminded of. And then finally, the bottom of the sheet at the end of the game, we award each other. We all do this thing, which I love. It's sort of a form of like roses and thorns, or like various other tools where you basically like say something you really loved about the character. But in this case, we all say what virtue we thought you embodied. Did you embody acumen, courage, grace, or passion? And we all get to say it. So I get to be like, well, Fred again clearly embodied courage, and Isadora clearly embodied grace. And I'll say like why you did that, and whatnot. This little gift that we give each other, and we each just make little tally marks. And there's no consensus. We each just give each other a. At the end of the session, we give each other one of these things. And then as our characters grow, whatever our strongest virtue is becomes part of our name later on. So that's just this thing that like we're just tallying at the bottom of the sheet, constantly keeping track of. There's other little details that I thought were important, but those are the major like UI elements that we wanted. And if you notice in the player kit, the fourth page has contests, like basically like a summary of the rules of play on the left, and then the Vault of Heaven on the right. And this is meant for the Strife player to print out, and they can keep track of how many boons the characters have gained with the gods by lighting up the Vault of Heaven, by filling in those boxes, and how much wrath they've gotten by filling in those little downward triangles of divine wrath. They can they can circle what the Strife level is. They can mark whatever their highest die is in a roll in case like it's between sessions or they've forgotten, they just want to put it there. They can mark any advantages the players have. And so that sheet is the Strife player sheet that like captures all the things that they need. And so we wanted it to be like everybody has one sheet that they look at. It's the rules are basically summarized on one sheet. And so we wanted the tabletop space to be uncluttered. It's not a game of you should spend 15 minutes figuring out whether you can get a +2 bonus because of flanking. It's a game where you're like, I know what I got.
You got to leave room for all those dice you're going to roll.
Exactly. And so we really wanted a very uncluttered system, in part because this is very much designed to be a beginner friendly game. It's very much designed to be a game that like people can pick up and start playing quickly. And so we just want everything to be as seamless as possible. That's my thought on the character sheet.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like everything's right there at your fingertips, right where you need it. I do love the player kit, which has the guides in it all right there. So like, honestly, if you're just playing and you need a little refresher on the rules, it's all right there.
Yep.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and it has that, like the list of names and the style and the, like all of those kinds of suggestions in there too. For people who have trouble kind of coming up with those things, or you just want to, like I always find it helpful to just have some examples in front of me. And it's like, even if you don't use those, to just be like, oh, okay, this is the vibe that we're going for, because like Ryan, Ryan's epithet was not one that was on the list. My name was not one that was on the list. We kind of just...
But they clearly fitted. Like they clearly fit with this. Like there was no.
It gave us a sense of what we were doing. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely. Call to action.
Yeah, like that.
So this discussion with Sean was phenomenal. This is just the first part of our 2-part discussion series. Hopefully everybody is enjoying it so far. We are liking these snappier, shorter episodes. So hopefully we can keep this going. If you have any thoughts on the format change, definitely let me know, and we'll see if there's any adjustments that need to be made. But though this discussion was fantastic, the discussions about the game design of the game, of how things were tested and how long it took. Really fascinating insight into that whole process. But then, like, this game itself is just so good in terms of how the poetic nature of character creation combines with that of the game itself, which really kind of is a wonderful hint towards the epic poems of ancient Greece and whatnot. So really am interested in playing this game, but next week we get into some even more discussion about some things, and you're definitely going to want to stick around for that. But before we let you go for the day, we do have some calls to action. Way back in season 3 of this show, about 6 years ago, we had Alex Roberts on to learn about Starcrossed. This series effectively defined the future of the show, directly contributing to us joining the One Shot Network, and Alex was a huge part of all of that. I am a huge fan of Alex's work, and recently, For the Queen just re-released under the Darrington Press banner. This is the publication company from Critical Role, if you weren't aware, and they really stepped up on the production values of this edition. I'll have a link to it in the show notes, but it's worth mentioning that this iconic game is now better than ever. In other calls to action, if you like what we are doing here and want to support the show, you can head on over to Patreon at patreon.com/charactercreationcast and sign up for any of our basic tiers as a free trial, and check out all of our non-physical rewards at that level for free for 7 days. Each level has a ton of great rewards associated with it. You can join our Sticker of the Month Club at $10 a month. You can get some custom C3 dice and a personalized thank you card made by Amelia herself for $5 and up, as well as chit-chats every week that we're able to do them for $1 and up. We're even brainstorming stuff we can do for the free tier, including the idea of potentially moving our newsletter over to the Patreon. So now is a great time to sign up. We also like to thank all of our patrons personally every episode. And in the spirit of keeping our episodes shorter, we're grouping them by 3 now. So let's get started. Lieutenant DJG, aka Tigranosaurus, and Eric Bonds, thanks for helping us make this show. Thank you, Daryl Holiday II, Shadim Cabal, and the Shyest Barbarian. We couldn't do this without you. Benjamin Sweeney, Lorcan McInnes, and Rob Fletcher, thanks. Kevin Brown, Tentacle Duck, and Cole McCallum, we are so grateful to you. Carlos Salazar, John Adamus, and David Chadwick, apart, they are your average patrons, but together they form a crack team of magical girl necromancer crime fighters. Thank you so much. Eric S., Ian Potmeyer, and Sorigoth, many thanks to you. Liam G., Brian Coleman, Garden GM, thanks. Tanglefoot, Blue Kryptonite, and Danny, you rock, thank you. Nicole Trainer, Liam Murray, and Kenning, thanks for making this all possible. And thanks to Brian Kurtz, Mark E. Fair, and Drew Owen. So glad to have you backing us. And thank you to all of our future patrons. Your support is helping us afford making this show. Every bit of support here helps tremendously, and we are incredibly grateful to all of you. If you are already supporting the Patreon or can't afford to do so right now, and still want to show your support for the show, the next best way to do so is to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, or even Facebook. We'll read your review right here, and thank you personally the episode after we get the review, since we're out of reviews right now. So if you get in there right now, it'll be at the top of the pile. That's all we have for you for today's episode. Join us next episode where we finish our phenomenal discussion with Sean Nittner. But until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe, drink some water, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time.
for joining us for part 1 of this discussion series. We'll be back in part 2, picking up right where we left off.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.